Hello, everybody. Good to have you guys back, and a very happy new year from us at IndiCast. Yeah, I have to do yet another episode today without Jay because work has been keeping him very busy. But I hope to have him back as soon as possible. So, without wasting much time, we will get to the topic of the day today, and it is something that I have wanted to talk about on this platform for a very long time. I have discussed issues related to economics and finance before, but I am going to be talking about the general price rise that we have been seeing lately. And this discussion is going to sort of focus on the general price rise that I just mentioned, but also the sort of erosion of the real value of money that we have. So I think this is generally a time where the urban middle class, for various reasons, has been feeling the pinch in their finances for, say, the last few years. There have been many factors like COVID or, a decline in the output generation capacity of the economy, or many other factors, many of them out of the control of the union government, many of them are external. The rise in, for example, fuel costs rising due to conflicts around the world being one of them. But the idea came to me through an interesting suggestion by my very dear friend Raghav, and it was that you should do an episode or a feature on how coffee prices at these fancy coffee shops have increased from like 280 rupees per cup to like 350 rupees per cup for like a Vietnamese or something fancy that you get at these South Delhi or South Bombay roasteries, or there are many now in even tier 2 cities, right? So it got me thinking, and I thought that we should do a deep dive into the rising price of your iced hazelnut cappuccino, but we should also look at the factors that have driven the price of that iced hazelnut cappuccino so high. And as you have already figured right now, that it's not just about the cappuccino, it's about income, output, and employment, and the erosion of our real wealth. So, one thing that he did mention, my friend Raghav, which is very valid, is that the price of a standard coffee has really been pushed up in most of these coffee shops. And the first thing that we can sort of draw out of it is that there has, in fact, been a sustained rise in input costs of any business. So, because we started this discussion with an example of a coffee shop, we know that the prices of milk have shot up. We know that in urban areas where, for example, coffee shops want to operate, the rents are not cheap. In fact, rentals are probably some of the highest costs that you have to incur. And over a period of time, even your wages that you have to pay as a operator have also been pushed up very highly. In a way, the bargaining power of labor and high wages is a good thing, but I'm just speaking from a purely pricing perspective, that the pressure that it adds to the consumer is always going to be very high. Now, I think that this example of a coffee shop was also very important because the food and beverage industry and these coffee shops are also major employment generators. And what this got me thinking was that these operators are actually in some kind of a triple whammy. They have to take care, obviously, of the customer who has to get good, affordable coffee, but they also have to pay very high wages in this time of falling real value of our incomes and of really sustained and really high inflation. And they also have to manage rentals and the regulatory and compliance burden that they have. So you're effectively, as a business, in the middle of a customer who's very hard to please, of labor which is very likely to be, shifting, and of the regulatory pressure that applies from the side of, the government and other regulatory authorities. Many coffee shops or restaurants, before they even start operating, they have to get so many licensing requirements that need to go through. That also sometimes in a country like India puts an unfortunate bribery premium pressure that they have to pay. So that kind of triple whammy can drive up the costs of your coffee cups so high that it basically makes it unaffordable, or for somebody who's buying a cup of coffee every day of that pricing, they have to be really really high income, you know. I in fact have spoken to many people who stop at one of these Khan Market cafes after work. Many of them are like lawyers, or many of them are in like consulting, and they are all okay, doing okay for themselves. But I've had this conversation many times that if I didn't have this monthly coffee kind of addiction, my income would have been at least 17-18,000 rupees higher, because you're effectively spending 300-400 rupees per cup of coffee. Now, I'm not blaming coffee shops. I really enjoy being there. I'm talking about a story of the erosion of our real value of money, right? So, even something as simple and as basic as a coffee has become so expensive. So, if we do a deep dive into the rising input costs, we realize that the erosion of our wealth is very real. I also say this because coffee shops themselves, despite having these pressures that they build to you, are also operating on extremely thin margins. And because in urban India, food and beverage industry is such a major employment generator, if any of these coffee shops ever go out of business, it has a sort of negative consequence on income output and employment also in India. Even I will say that, let's take a similar example of bars, for example, because like I said, food and beverage industry is a major employment generator in India. The bars and the restaurant bars which serve alcohol sometimes will charge you 900 rupees to 1,000 rupees for a small drink. Now that would probably bring you to the conclusion that these clubs are probably making a lot of money, but their profit margins are not that steep. So what that indicates is that their input costs and their bribery premiums also. I'm saying bribery premiums intentionally because at this point in a country like India, it's understood that some cut has to go to the municipal authorities, some local authorities, even some police organizations. So the operational burden on the business owner is so high that over a period of time, the food and beverage industry in India becomes a very good case study for studying sustained general price rise anywhere in the country. I'm saying this because this industry is something that affects us every day. We all go eat out, we all go have our fancy cup of coffees, and I sometimes, you know, enjoy doing it. But one thing that we have to see is that the general inflation has pushed up something so basic to such an unaffordable level that the incoming consequences are going to be farther more worrisome. I'm saying this also because uh, you know, we are living in times where global trade is still a little distraught. So things like fuel and transport costs are likely to be disrupted, if not uh, pushed up greatly. So what that will also do is it's not going to make the regulatory burden on our business persons easier. I also think that over a period of time, at some point, the regulator and the government agencies will have to step in and do something to facilitate the ease of doing business environment for a lot of these industries that are major employment force multipliers, or accept the consequences that will come with it. I always think that institutions of government on the ground, as municipal corporations are to many of these coffee shops, they should be facilitators of good businesses. In India, unfortunately, many times government is the tip of the spear to disrupt good business activity. So I will sort of chart all of this back to a more concise summary of this video that I'm making and getting at, is that over a period of time, our businesses are facing rising costs. They are also facing the disruptions created by many international externalities. They are facing pressures from customers. They are facing higher input costs. They have to meet the salaries and wages requirement of their employees, yet they are getting little to no regulatory support at all. So that has to be shifted, because without ease of doing business, there is no large scale sustained employment. So the summary of my video, or the summary of this very small video essay, is that the rising prices of your cappuccino has consequences which are much beyond beyond the scope of your wallet. Now your wallet is a personal finance decision, but the factors that I'm speaking of, which include fuel prices, which include input costs, which includes the pressures from customers, they are very, very real major economic indicators. Now if something as small as a cappuccino is beginning to seem a major pinch on your wallet, something about the microfinance is also going amiss. Major, large scale, sustained investment into employment generation and a large deregulation exercise that makes it much easier for entry and exit, especially into the food and beverage industry, is something that will add a lot of value to our economy. I think this was a small episode. I hope I made sense. I hope you got the message that I was trying to get at. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us, and keep tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe.